Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charlie Pankey at Game of Sierra Magazine and our Sierra Now podcast. We appreciate you joining us today. We hope the Sierra is within your sights or you're up there playing now and are just listening in. So we're glad to have you here and want to thank you for that. Today we are traveling south, if you will. We're going down to the Kern River Valley, a place that I got to visit last year. And my guest today is Gary Ananian. Ananian, did I say it right? Ananian?
I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah, pretty good. Of the Kern River Conservancy and Southern Sierra Conservancy. Gary, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We were just talking beforehand. The weather's getting hot down in Kernville, so everybody's ready to come up and ride that river, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The river is getting pretty high right now with the extra heat and the snow melt. So we do expect tourism to get bumped up this weekend. Last weekend was pretty warm up here. We saw a little bump with tourism, people getting in the river. I mean, they shouldn't because it's still high.
Yeah.
Um, we expect that number to increase this week and then further on going every weekend after that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my first visit down last year, going down. And we stayed in Kernville, and we actually went on that really high water last year. Like when it was very first, barely safe. I'm going to say because it was cruising, man. You guys had a lot of big floods down there last year. How's that affected what you guys are doing, and how's the river looking for camping and recreation for listeners coming in?
Well, definitely the landscape changed a little bit from that flood. This was like a 50-year, 100-year flood that we saw. It devastated the area. There's a lot of damage, and we saw a lot of changes upriver in the campground. Some of the areas where you had like these like cool little beaches for people to enjoy are gone now. There's no longer exist. There's just debris up and down the river corridor. A lot of the vegetation, a lot of the trees were damaged.
Okay.
So some of the campgrounds are semi-open. There was still a lot of damage. There's a lot of beach sand that came
Yep.
in with the flows. So there's no more access for vehicles in these areas. So it's been closed off. They can still go camp in there, but they just have to park at a certain at another location and walk in.
Okay.
But
Very
it's been
good.
challenging. The Forest Service did a great job. They were out there within a couple of weeks right after the flood, and they had their crews in there trying to fix everything, get it all ready by Memorial Day for the summer season. And during in the off season, the fire crews were back in there, and they pretty much did prescribed burns as much as they could with all that dead vegetation, all those trees that were destroyed, and just laying everywhere. We're all cleared out.
Very good. So yeah, it obviously takes a team effort. I've been following you guys on social media here for a little bit, and some of the work you're doing down there. What's kind of your focus area in the conservancy and your volunteer groups? Where are you guys most focused in at the moment?
So right now, because it's summertime, our focus is going to be recreation management. So we work alongside with the Forest Service, and like on the weekends, we have like a little truck, a work truck that we have. So I go out there on the weekends and I talk to a lot of the campers, whether we're teaching them leave no trace, or we're issuing fire permits, or we pass out a lot of trash bags. You'd be surprised how many people show up here with no trash bags.
Yeah.
They think the plastic wrapper around their water bottle case. So many people think that's a trash bag. They try to use a trash bag, and there's like 30 people camping, and so
That's the hole in the bottom of it, doesn't it?
it doesn't work. So we pass out a lot of trash bags. We go through a few rolls every weekend. The Forest Service has kind of stepped up since COVID with all the problems that we had during COVID. So now instead of a regular trash bin, we have these huge roll-off bins that you would typically see at a construction site. So
Okay.
ever since we've gotten those, ever since we've had extra portable toilets being sent us or being delivered to us, we've seen a huge decrease in impact numbers. People are now using these dumpsters. They're now using the toilets.
Right.
When we do find trash, we're not finding like the big piles that we used to. A lot of the trash, like for example, last weekend was pretty windy here.
Hmm.
A lot of the trash that we found was not in the campgrounds, but it was in the vegetation around the campgrounds, which shows me that everything was just kind of getting blown around. Trash is like in the kids' hands, or no one's really attention. The campground is up here, but they're down by the river. The wind's picking things up and blowing it around. So
Yeah.
we're seeing, a decrease in that, but the numbers are still low for the tourism as well. Ever since we've had these multiple years of really good snowpack, there's been a shift in tourism for us. We've seen the shift going towards the San Gabriel River now in the
Oh,
Angeles
really?
National. Um, it has become a very, very popular place for Instagrammers and TikTokers now.
Gotcha.
Everyone is going there. They have like this beautiful, clear aqua blue color in the river, and it's
Hmm.
not deep. It's like a foot deep at the most. There's no white water. It's just a river. That's all. It's this very lazy river, and It's safe, and I went there to visit a couple times with some of the Forest Service people that I know, and we talked to a lot of people down there, and a lot of people were like, "We typically go to the Kern, but we're not going there anymore because it's just not safe. Every time we go there, the river's closed or it's too dangerous." And I can get it. Last weekend, for Memorial Day weekend, we saw a lot of people up here, but by
Right.
Sunday morning, we saw a lot of people leaving.
Hmm.
And we asked why they were leaving already. They said that A, too windy, B, it was cold, and three, the water's just too high, we can't get in. So they shift, they started going somewhere else.
Right.
And Gabriel River is only a 30-minute drive for most of these families from LA versus a 3-hour drive to come up here.
Yeah, that was something I learned last year when I visited. 'Cause I got to talk to the restaurant owner, hotel owner. I didn't realize how many of your guests actually just come straight from Los Angeles. It's pretty, kind of the first entry into the Sierra, if you will. And you guys
Yeah.
have that canyon drive that goes. I forget the town that's the other end of that canyon. Yeah, exactly. There you go. So that was closed last year, so everybody had to go do the side loop like I did and came
Uh-huh.
in that direction. So, how big of an area are you and the conservancy actually working with? I mean, you just do the River Canyon? Do you go up to like Trail of the Hundred Giants? What is kind of your scope of management, if you will, or
So for the Kern River Conservancy, we pretty much start at the mouth of the canyon, which is right where the Bakersfield and the Sequoia National Forest boundary is.
okay,
We worked that entire lower river all the way up to Keysville, which is all BLM land. And
okay,
then we go to the upper Kern River, which is still part of Sequoia National Forest, and we run that 20-mile corridor. And there's some trails that we work on as well. And then we also so we started Southern Sierra Conservancy, which is our organization, our sister organization. We did that a couple of years ago. And that was to fill the void of the other side of the forest that didn't have volunteer groups. So the Western Divide Ranger District didn't have groups, and that's pretty much where the Giant Sequoia Monument is, Trail of 100
hmm,
Giants. There's an area called Lloyd's Meadow Road, which is a very, very popular place for day use recreation with waterfalls and natural slides.
yep,
And so we started doing work over there. So we pretty much encompass all of the Sequoia National Forest, except for the Hume Ranger District, which is pretty far out. It's more towards Sequoia National Park.
right,
We don't go out to there. We just hit like everything that's in the reach of Bakersfield and Porterville, Visalia, those areas. We also work on Cahuilla River down in Three Rivers.
okay,
Easy location because it's only one spot. It's slick rock. There's nowhere else for us.
hmm,
Everything else is either private property or in the park. And then this summer, we just signed a partnership agreement with the Inyo National Forest. We're going to be working in the Menachie Meadows area.
oh wow, fantastic! So you guys are really expanding. That's a big territory. If you're not familiar with the Southern Sierra, that's pretty expansive region. I work with Desolation Wilderness
Uh-huh.
here, Tahoe Basin. I would think that we would probably fit two or three of us inside of the region you're kind of covering right there. For mileage wise, I don't know how big that is, but it's a pretty big area. So
We have a pretty
how
volunteer database. Our base is almost 3,000 people that we've created
oh
over the 10
great,
years here. And then that 3,000 people, there's a lot of people that are in fly fishing clubs, mountain biking clubs, off-road or overlanding clubs, and we stay in communication with all of them. So when we have like let's say a trail work day or whatever, we usually reach out to the clubs or Boy Scout troops or youth groups first, and it's easy, just one phone call, you get like 20 people to show up.
that's
So we
fantastic.
do that. So we're working with a different, factions of groups to get them to come out before we put a mass call out for all the volunteers.
That's really good. I mean, to be able to collect that database over the years and to hear so many people trying to help where they can, right? Just the
Yeah.
free time. It's amazing how one bag of trash by just a volunteer can make such a big difference in all of our national forest and recreational land, right? Just to
Yeah,
make the
absolutely.
next experience, right? So
Yeah, when we have the volunteers show up, and I give like a little prep talk before we start picking up trash, and I let them know that not to get angry, not to get frustrated at what you're going to see or what you're going to pick up, but instead uh, look at it like you just made the difference, right?
yeah,
You're making a
yeah.
difference. That's how you go home with that smile, and you go back home. You let people know, and 50-60% of our volunteer base are return volunteers. They come back every single year.
Yeah, I know my personal experience in desolation. When people ask me why do you do that? Why do you carry a shovel and a trash bag while you're hiking in desolation wilderness? But when I come back with whether it just be a small bag of pistachio nut shells I picked up around the lake shore or a banana peel, uh, it just makes me feel good that next person gets there, they won't see it, and they've
Yeah.
now experienced it how it should be experienced, which really makes you feel good. So, congratulations to you guys, 3,000 people and growing. That's fantastic. Moving over to the Inyo side, is that I'm always fuzzy on the boundary of the wilderness areas. Is that the golden trout wilderness side over there in that meadow, or is that?
I believe so.
Yeah, real close to there, right? So,
Yeah.
I actually haven't done any recreation myself in that area. Is there multiple trailheads, or is it pretty much one meadow and trailhead that you're working there?
So what we're going to be working on is an area in the meadow where it attracts a lot of off-road activity. A lot
Okay.
of mostly overlanders are
Mm-hmm.
going in there, and in any genre of recreation, whether it's rock climbing, kayaking, overlanding,
Mm-hmm.
there's the generation that started it, right? And those are the people that did it right. And
Yep.
then the next generation is the influencer generation. These are the people that are on Instagram and TikTok making it cool. And then the third generation is the people who are following these influencers who don't know what they're doing. So we passed the influencers, right, a couple years ago,
Yep.
and now we're seeing people who don't know and don't understand what overlanding is. They have the
Yep.
money to go buy an $80,000 Tacoma and drop 50K in upgrades, but they have absolutely no idea what it means or what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be. So what we're seeing is they're going off trail and they're driving in the meadows. They're destroying the meadows because they think that's what off-roading is.
Yeah.
They just don't understand. Like they're not bringing firewood. They're cutting trees down. Um, they're not packing out trash because they don't understand pack it in, pack it out, or leave no trace.
Yep.
So this is the problem generation is they just don't know, right? Because
Yep.
they learned from social media, and most social media influencers don't really plug in, leave no trace, or anything like that. And then some of them that do are just doing it as a gimmick, and they don't even know what it is, but they just put it on there because it's cool.
Yeah.
But that's where the partnership comes in between us and the Forest Service. We kind of just hop in there, and whether we're doing patrols and educating folks, or we're going in there and picking up after them. It's a lot of abandoned campfires. People just don't put their campfires out
Uh-huh.
when they leave. They leave
Yep.
all the trash behind. Just the resource damage of the trees being cut down, watching the river corridor being destroyed by off-road activity. It sucks, but it
You
is
just
what
go
it
to
is.
work, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
just go to work and get it done. The education part is such a crucial element. I understand exactly what you're saying. I've run into people in Desolation, for example. Fires haven't been allowed there for over 25 years, but they've been someplace else where a fire was allowed. And
yeah,
they go, well, it's kind of our land. Why can't we build a fire? So just doing those educational opportunities to talk to them,
yeah.
going, hey, I'm not writing a ticket. I'm a volunteer. I'm just here to clean up. I'll literally clean up their fire pit right in front of them sometimes, and
Oh yeah,
hopefully get a chance to talk to them about why we don't do fires here in this corridor. You guys have those down there, but just be able to bring your own firewood and take out your trash, and the driving off road. That's always such a hard one because they do think they can just go through the bushes, right? I
yeah.
remember having those own
And
conversations with my own dad when I
if
moved
they
to
stay
Nevada.
on
So
trail, they're fine.
yeah,
But I
exactly.
think people don't know what off-roading or overlanding means, and so they decide that there's a big field of grass, but it's not grass. It's not a field of grass. It's a meadow.
Meadow.
You're gonna sink your car in, and I have pictures of these cars that are, half deep in here. They have to get towed out, or they think just because the South Fork of the Kern River is a very pristine river. It's home to the golden trout.
Yep.
There's a lot of endangered species that live out there, and then we sit there watch stuff on YouTube of these guys just ripping the place apart because they think that's what it is. That's what overlanding is.
Right. That's too bad. That's sad. How do you guys go about it as far as education? What is your biggest channel for education? Is it the social media yourself trying to get out there,
It's
or is it
social
the face
media.
to face? Yeah.
Yeah, it's I would say 100% it would be social media. We've got almost 50,000 social media followers, and that's where we plug in the most of the messaging.
Hmm.
On the weekends, you'll see me out there talking to folks all the time, and if there's events, we table events, and we talk to a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Do you do this full time, or is this a volunteer effort yourself?
This is full time for me now. It used to be volunteer, but it just became too much. The Kern River is, I refer it to as the Las Vegas of wild and scenic rivers.
Yeah. That's a
If you look
good
at
way of putting it. Even my short term last year, I kind of felt like,
because
yeah,
when I work with other wild and scenic river coordinators and stuff like this, and their visitation is like a few hundred people or a few thousand people for the whole year, and I'm over here like, well, we're doing about 20, 30,000 a weekend.
a
And they're
weekend.
like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." And you break down how the Kern River is built and the way it is, and people don't really come here to be with nature. They're just raging in the campgrounds or
Outdoors.
getting
Yeah.
drunk, drugs, shooting guns. It's complete opposite of what the other wild and scenic river system is.
Yeah, I remember that I hiked up on is it Lake Isabella right there outside the lake there, and some of the campgrounds while I was there. I was like, oh, this is the party scene right, in this
Yeah,
campground. It was
yeah, that's what it's
a little
known for.
different. Yeah,
It's definitely known
exactly.
for being a party place.
Yeah, so coming out of that. So when you guys plan out your year and you guys start looking at it, like I said, you just are enter your summer season. Is there a shift from like the spring season where you're able to get some work done? Now you're just kind of in maintenance mode all summer long because there's so many people coming in summertime. Is that kind of how? Is that
Yeah, so in
kind
the springtime, we try to focus on fundraising because obviously we need the money to keep going for the whole year.
of? Mhm.
Um, so between fundraising and getting stuff prepped, so whether we're working with the Forest Service or Bureau of Land Management or other partners, we're trying to get things set up and get ready. We're trying to figure out what the budget is, how much is the Forest Service going to get, and what they're not going to get, so we can fill in that void through on the private side.
That's great.
So most of the time, everything kind of balances out. There's some things that they can do that we can do, and there's some things I can't afford that they can afford. So it just goes hand in hand. But usually, right after Memorial Day is when we start going into like maintenance, upkeep mode, education mode. It's pretty much what we're doing every week.
Right, just out with the cluster of people walking through the campgrounds and
Usually, like May,
buffers.
June, we're between the leave no trace and all that. We're also doing river safety because it's spring melt time, and
Yep.
then right after July 4th, we're in fire prevention mode. Now that we just went into fire restrictions today, so it's fire restrictions. So we're going to be out there talking about fire prevention. You can't
Yeah.
have a campfire, you can't do this, or you need to have a permit for that propane tank or whatever.
Right, that's important to know in California, right? One, California fire permits are free or $5. They're really easy to get,
Right.
right? But two, that you have to watch those independent fire restrictions for whatever zone you're in, right? So
Yeah.
you guys just went in fire restriction, which means no campfires this weekend, and their propane stoves will definitely need a permit
Mhm.
to cook, right? So
Yeah.
it's good information to get out. People don't know that and understand. Well, I was up here last week and I had a fire. What's the problem, right? So,
Yeah, it
um,
is. And we've seen
yeah,
people come up here. Like I'm sure there's campers who showed up here Tuesday or Wednesday night, and they're going to be here for the next 3 4 days. And then I'm sure the patrols are going to show up this morning, or they're like, "Hey, you can't have a campfire." The fire restrictions went into effect this morning, and I feel bad because they're like, "Well, we were here. We were out of cell service. We have no idea."
how would
You
we know exactly? Yeah,
But for the most part, we have a great team here with the Forest Service. They're not out there just going to give you a ticket because you didn't know.
yeah.
They're pretty good at educating folks and letting them know how things work and where to get information from.
Very good. So let me ask you this question, and I just maybe I didn't prep you for this, so if you don't have one, it's okay. Um, I don't know how long you've been doing the conservancy, but can you think of an area that you're like super proud of that it was really bad maybe at one point, and your guys' group has come in and restored it, and now it's kind of a maybe it's a shining spot along the river or within the district that you can think of where maybe we can share a success story of how a conservancy comes in and partners with Forest Service and where it goes.
So I would say both the upper current and lower current was just I would compare it to Skid Row sometimes. It was that bad. And we had another organization at the time called Keepers of the Kern.
Okay.
We kind of split the duties. They were up on the upper Kern, and I took the lower Kern. And I mean, you ask any business or any whitewater outfitter in town what it looked like 10 years ago, and it was just like devastating. Just trash everywhere, graffiti everywhere. On the lower Kern, we saw a lot more impact because of its proximity to Bakersfield. It was only a 20-30 minute drive for them to come up the canyon
Mm-hmm.
and recreating the canyon. Most of those folks from Bakersfield were just day using. And so they would come up. And of course, 10 years ago, there weren't the resources we had now with the dumpsters and all that. So
Yeah.
everything was just getting dumped around. And I believe the morale of the agency back then, under the old leadership, was just not motivated to help, not motivated to do better. They
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like had that typical government employee mentality. Like, oh, it is what it is. Until we showed up and we kind of started highlighting things and putting stuff on the radar. And a new district ranger came in 2013 with a new recreation officer. So their attitude was a lot more different. It was more like, let's go get it, let's get it knocked out. And that's how everything kind of changed when I started in 2013. And the Keepers of the Current started 2013. And then we had this new district ranger and new rank officer. So it was like perfect timing for the four of us to be here. And we all
Okay.
wanted the same thing and we all worked together and we achieved it. We got it done. And anytime you go anywhere on the river, people message us all the time. We haven't been here in years, and it looks so different. It looks so clean. It looks so peaceful now. There's no more graffiti. There's no more trash. We don't see that anymore. But now that the past 6 months, we're starting to see a shift unfortunately, with trash coming from locals. We have a dump site here. It's a rural area. There's no trash pickup if you don't have it.
Hmm.
People have to go to the dump. Well, the fees for the dump rise. They keep going up every single year.
Right.
So people, because it's a low income community, people don't have the money to go dump their stuff. So where are they dumping it? In the river corridor.
Oh, that's a bummer. That's a bummer.
So, we had
Yeah.
our annual whitewater rafting cleanup a couple days ago, and we were pulling out shopping carts, disc brakes for cars, construction equipment, like just stuff that shouldn't be down there. It's not camp trash. It's like industrial or household stuff is what we're pulling out of there, and that shows me that it's coming from the locals.
Yeah, that's sad. Yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to get out there and get on top of it. That's still that's going to be something you're battling for a while, probably, as we go through
Yeah,
this
it's
economic
changing
shift.
the
So,
whole culture. With the campers, we learned, with slight closures of certain areas. We had a campground called Chico Flat, which was one of the most popular places to camp, but it was also the most
yep,
impacted. A few years ago, we put a restriction on there that you couldn't camp within 300 feet of the river. So it forced everybody up by the parking lot now.
yep,
It changed That changed a lot of people's mentality. A lot of people just stopped coming. Some people just went somewhere else. And the ones that actually cared came back and kept it clean. We run into them. They tell us that how much they love this place, and they're actually clean. They'll tell us like these people left all their trash, but we went and cleaned it up because we don't want
nice.
you to come here and see it that it's still not being taken care of, and we don't want it to close down. Like families
So,
have been coming for 30 years.
sounds like there's a quite a bit of a pride locally too of it from the volunteer standpoint, and telling educating campers that
Yeah,
they're really trying to make it cleaned up and pristine. People to come up and enjoy the weekends.
yeah,
And
absolutely. I mean, in
so,
my 10 years, that was my opinion. Was well, we don't. So the outdoor culture has always been about this pack it in, pack it out, right? Like
hmm,
leave no trace and leave it better than you found it. And then I came from LA with a background in hospitality, where
okay,
for us, our mentality was take care of the customer so they come back and spend money.
hmm,
Well, I kind of transitioned that mentality into what we were doing with recreation management. And I said, well, if we provide the amenities for these folks, they're going to use it. And there was a lot of naysayers, there were a lot of people that were against that idea I had because now I was catering into them.
yeah,
But it was at the same time, I'm trying to convince these people like times have changed, society's changed, and people have changed. That mentality that you guys had was 50 years ago when you
hmm,
guys were young and visiting. It's just not the same anymore. Like a lot of the families that come here, there's like 30 of them. There's 40 people. Like you
hmm,
expect 40 people to pack out 5 days of trash back to LA. Like where are they gonna put in their car?
yeah,
And so once we started seeing the dumpsters coming in, the portable toilets and all of that, we saw a change in behavior.
oh
Now that
good,
there's amenities there, they're using it, right?
right.
And it's like the broken window theory, right? You have a abandoned house. If nobody takes care of it, it's going to get squatted, homeless people, graffiti, and the campgrounds were like that for such a long time. They were just like left abused, and nobody took care of
Yeah.
it, so people just kept trashing it.
That's really important. No, I wonder if you work with up and down the Sierra. We have conservancies, obviously, in lots of different areas. Do you get a chance to work with them and brainstorm ideas in different locations to see what's working, share what's working for you, or
Uh,
are you guys all so busy in your own area? It's kind of hard to do that. So,
it's not the busy part. I think what we do is kind of unique over here on the Kern River. Um, a lot of environmental groups in the state and throughout the Sierra, they're not doing the ongoing cleanups that we do weekly or biweekly. I think they're more traditional environmental people. Like they're more probably focused on legislation and the politics and stuff like that. Where we're just more of boots on the ground, working hands on. We're down there every week picking up trash, cleaning graffiti, and is what we're doing.
right.
So there's not a lot of other organizations that do that. The ones that do that are down in the San Gabriel, and I work with them diligently down there. I'm always connected with the tribes. Our old river manager here for the Sequoias is now down there, so I
Okay.
stay in contact with her, and we kind of like bounce off each other. But um, you know, it's a small world of what we do, and there's not a lot of organizations that do it. All the organizations do cleanups, but they do like once or twice a year as like an annual thing.
Right.
They're not doing it like weekly, like we are on a full time cases.
That's great. So let me shift gears on just for a minute. We only got a few more minutes left. It's kind of fast. Amazing how fast these shows go when I really dig in. But you talk about recreation yourself. You obviously you get out there a lot, but you love your area. I can tell by the pride of what you have and sharing. What is the highlight area for you down there for recreation? And where would if I was new to the area, where would you send me?
The two places I always send people is always the Trail of 100 Giants.
Yep, great one.
Um, I think everybody should experience seeing giant sequoias.
Yep.
And the best part about the Trail of 100 Giants is like it's not like a long drive like you're going to Yosemite or Sequoia National Park. You're not waiting in hours of line to get into the park or anything like that. It's just real quick. You get in there. Parking's like $5. You can hike the trail. It's a very easy area.
Great grove, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I recommend that, and I always recommend whitewater rafting. The river has a bad reputation thanks to the media, who calls it the killer Kern, which it's not.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I always tell people to go rafting to experience it and understand what the river is about, so they know.
Right. Yeah, well, I rafted that Kern last year when the water was really high. It was very kind of funny that Kern River Outfitters took me out, and water was so high that a normal class 4, it was still class 4 with speed and stuff, but you didn't have the drop off, so we kind of just almost skipped across them almost. So I'd like to come back down and do it on a normal year.
Yeah, when the water's that high, it's kind of this like coast. You're flying through it. There's no more. There's so much water.
Yeah, it was more about voting the trees and the debris last year, like I said, in the river. It was quite good. But we really love that Trail of 100 Giants. And then my wife and I really love, there's a dome just a few more miles down the road that we went to. Yeah, that was a beautiful place to go down and see the valley from the top of the dome. That was a neat thing.
It's such an easy hike. You drive up and you just walk 20 feet up this little trail to the top of the dome rock. It's like our little mini half dome, but
it is. Yeah,
it's easy. It takes you 5 minutes to get up there.
It's a great location. What was the name of it again?
Dome Rock.
That's right, Dome Rock. Yeah, exactly. I'll have to put a link to a photo of my
description
here.
So 360 view of the whole Kern River watershed. You get to see Mount Whitney in the distance on a clear day.
Yeah, and those spires. There's spires that are up just north of there. I forget what those are called too, but those spires are pretty cool. So, well, hey Gary, I apologize. We're at 26 minutes. We're kind of at the end of our show. I asked all my guests the same 3 questions.
Okay.
Kind of a recreation question. We didn't get into much of trails and stuff today, but I really found what you guys are doing interesting. So hopefully the readers will like it too. So here's my 3 questions for you. Okay. So first of all, I assume you have a gear bag and it's probably packed and ready to go. But I want to focus on your recreation. So let's say your gear bag's packed and you're ready to go out and enjoy the wilderness and nature yourself. Where are you going?
I am a huge fanboy of the Eastern Sierras, unfortunately,
Yeah.
I don't do much backpacking in my own forest.
Yeah, okay.
As much as I love Sequoia, I mean, I do my things in Sequoia, but when it's time to leave, the Eastern Sierras is just my place. Like I listen.
Do you have favorites? Do you have like that's my favorite spot or trail?
We're on the Eastern Sierras. Like I don't have like a specific favorite spot, but just anywhere between Lone Pine and like Mammoth is just everything. Everything is epic up there. Like every trail has like a lake or an alpine lake or a river or creek going through it. It's never disappointing. It's just unbelievable.
I can't argue with that. I think most of our readers would agree with you on that too.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say this. Let's say you've been a day out. You've actually been a day on the Kern. You're cleaning up, or maybe you got to go out the Eastern Sierra and go hiking. Favorite trail food or favorite after you're done spot to go get a burger or whatever your favorite food afterward is?
The food I pack out the most is it's called Heather's Choice.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, they make backpacking food.
Okay.
They're based out of Alaska. It's one of my favorite ones. That's the one I take most of the time. And then afterwards, there's only 2 foods I'm craving after a long hike, and that's like a really juicy double bacon cheeseburger or a pizza.
There you go. You're speaking my love language right there. Those 2 my favorite right there. So.
I need the most calories, most cholesterol, most fat, and just when I'm done eating that, I'm like, you know what? I just regained all my calories back I lost.
That's always tell me I've hiked a lot of miles in my life, but there's a reason I'm still this size because I like my cheeseburgers afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then final question here. Let's talk gear bags, right? What is your go-to can't miss piece of gear you never leave home without?
Like for just trips or just everyday general?
Just if you're going out working on the river or going out hiking, what would be your gear piece you never leave home without?
So I am a fanboy of Hyperlite mountain gear.
Okay.
I love all their gear. I have their day pack. I have their backpack. So when I go backpacking, I take my Southwest 40. If I'm out hiking or just even doing some casual work, it's their day pack that I take out.
Okay. Very good. Hyperlight. That you're my first person to say hyperlight. There, I know
Yeah,
that's definitely a trend in the industry. So
yeah, I'm very when it comes to backpacking gear, outdoor gear, I'm like I have like this like anti REI attitude.
okay,
Um, I rather support there. Not a lot of people know how many companies there are that are making local U.S. made backpacking gear.
yep.
Everyone just runs to REI and buys like those big name brands that are made like in Asia or wherever they're made. But there are dozens and dozens of companies that are making amazing backpacking gear, and it's ultra lightweight, and it's
Hmm.
better quality, and it's the same price as what you would pay for REI gear.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic. That's a good plug. Good plug. By the way, this is not sponsored by these guys, but we do like to highlight it on that. So, but hey, Gary, we really appreciate it. We're on the 30-minute mark. I want to be respectful of your time and our audience's time. So, thank you so very much for not only serving your community down there and what you're doing out in nature and conservancy to make it better for all of us that do enjoy it, but thanks for giving us the time today to share your story.
thank you for
I hope hopefully everyone enjoys that, and we'll stay in touch. And if you guys ever need a media partner to get some information out, please send it up to Sierra Rec Magazine. We'd be glad to get it out for you too. So
having.
for our listeners out there, we do hope the Sierra is in your future. Kern River and the Kern River area is a great destination in the Southern Sierra. Also agree with Gary. I think the Eastern Sierra is pretty nice too. But I do love that Trail of 100 Giants. I can't recommend it enough. My wife and I loved it there, along with Dome Rock. So do that. But wherever you're at, wherever you're heading to Tahoe, Mammoth, Southern Sierra, we hope you enjoy the Sierra. Go out and leave no trace. Take someone else's trash with you if you can. Make it a better place for the next group. And we'll see you next week on the podcast. Have a great week.